But when you talk about discovery writing, it is basically writing into the curiosity and figuring out where the story is going to go without too many guardrails.
Ooh.
Okay. Okay.
So it sounds kind of fun, but kind of scary to me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Tolerance
jump
levels,
in, let's
right?
go.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast, where we focus on how authors found success, looking at strategies that have taken them to the top of the bestseller charts, as well as what they've learned from their mistakes. Because being an indie author is more than knowing the latest marketing trend. It's about being innovative and creative and learning from your mistakes.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have,
KimBoo York.
yes, talking about discovery writing.
Yes.
Yes.
So we deep dived into discovery writing and what it is, misconceptions about it, her tips. It was really interesting. And
Yes.
I think it'll be helpful. Even if you don't do discovery writing, I think it'll be helpful because there were certain things that I was like, ooh, I could probably use that, even though I wouldn't say I'm a huge discovery writer.
Right. Yeah. And she has a new book, correct?
She does.
Yes.
Called By the Seat of Your Pants, Secrets of Discovery Writing.
Yes. So we dove into that and it was awesome. She's a great guest.
Yes. So that's coming up. What have you been doing this week?
Just writing and just normal book stuff. And my dog has decided to just lose his mind right now. So Tug. Anyway, just writing. I was at my daughter's all week and because we had dance recital on a Sunday, and then the next Friday we had an 11th birthday party. And so I just stayed and got writing done while I was there. So that was great. I'm meeting at 8 in the morning with some friends. I think I said that earlier on a different podcast, but that's just really helped me to kind of build that habit of waking up and
that's good.
writing. It's not the first thing I do. First thing I do is get on Clubhouse and listen and talk there. But then I'm on and I'm writing from 8 to 9 for sure. And then I usually write more after, but depending on what's going on. And so it's been good. It's been good.
That's good.
Good week. Good week. How about you?
Well, it is all good here. I'm getting the maps back for the special edition. And I got I'm doing the end pages. And so I got those back. I had to send those off, get them formatted correctly because I couldn't do it, even though it's probably very simple. I couldn't get it to work. So I got that done. So it's stuff like that. I'm recording a couple of episodes of Mystery Books podcast. So that will be working ahead, get that done for the summer. So stuff like that. And also there's a Readsy article that came out recently about writing cozy mysteries. And they got in touch with me and asked for a quote. So I have a quote in there, and it's a really good summary of what the basic elements of a cozy mystery. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes. And my other question for you was, did you see the Northern Lights?
I did not.
I didn't either. And
I know. It was too late. I've been going to bed earlier. That's another thing.
Well,
I've been going to bed earlier.
That's a good choice
Yeah,
overall. No, I didn't. I saw the thing that said that they would be probably visible. And I was like, oh, what a shame that, we're so far south. We won't get to see them. And then I wake up the next morning and there's all these people in Houston who are posting pictures. And I'm like, that's on my bucket list. How could I have missed that?
Yeah. I just missed it. I know. I was in Dallas, and so I
could have seen them.
Yeah, I know.
You had a bigger chance than I did.
Yeah, I went to bed. Yeah.
Well, we can't ding you too much for that.
Yeah, I was around 5 kids all day.
Yeah, so you were probably in bed about 7:00.
Yeah, no, not quite that early, but pretty early. Yeah. But we should also talk about Inkers because it's been like 2 weeks from when this airs, and you and I both are going to be there again.
Yes, we will both
We-
be there,
we
and we will
love
do
anchors.
some sort of meetup. We're not sure yet what we'll do, but I think we'll do a meetup of some kind, don't
Yeah.
you think?
Yeah.
For
Yep.
podcast
Yep.
listeners.
I love that. I always love it when we do that. But it's Inkers Con, not just Inkers, but Inkers Con
Yeah.
in Dallas. And it's so fun. And I can't wait to see everybody there. And
Yeah. So watch this space. We will let you know what we're doing or
Yeah.
how we're meeting up. It'll probably be in the app because I think they usually use the app
yes.
and you can set up a meetup. So if
Yeah.
you're going, let us know through that. We'll put something in there as soon as we have it all
Yeah.
the details.
Yep.
And we do have one new supporter this week.
Mhm.
We have Charmin McGraw who picked the heart.
Yes.
So thank you, Charmin. And to all our other supporters, we really, really appreciate it.
We do. We do. Thank you so much. And there's a new feature, right?
Yes. For our podcast host has
And- yeah.
created this thing where it's a link and it will be in the show notes and you can send us a text message. So it will come to us and it's just an easy way for us to hear from you. We
Mhm.
can't text you back. It's not set up that way right now. It may be in the future, but right now you can send us a text. And we thought we'd have a question this week
Mhm.
to kind of see if it worked, test it out,
Yeah.
and hear from you. So it's so if you click that link, send us a text and tell us, since we're talking about discovery writing, we thought a good question would be, can you share something, a character or a plot twist that surprised you when you were writing or that changed the direction of your story? So if
Yeah.
you have something like that, if you're a discovery writer and something surprised you, let us know.
Mhm.
And it just be sure to put if you want your name mentioned, be sure and put your name at the bottom.
Mhm.
And we will hopefully get that and be able to give you a shout out on the show.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
I hope somebody does text us and talks to us. You know,
Yeah.
we always love that.
Yeah. So that's all we've got.
Yes.
So we should get on with the
Yes.
interview with
With
KimBoo.
KimBoo. It was really great. Y'all are going to love it.
All right. Here is KimBoo. Well, today we are really excited to welcome back KimBoo York. Hi, KimBoo. How are you?
Hey, good morning. Well, morning for me. How y'all doing? Good to be back.
Good. Good. It's morning for us too. I'm still drinking my coffee.
We're getting there. We're waking up.
Coffee.
So KimBoo's been on before. She was on episode 186 where we talked about writing serials. But let me go ahead and read her bio again so that you guys can catch up if you haven't listened to that other episode. But I'd recommend it. It's a great
Mhm.
episode about
Mhm.
writing long form, long serials.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So here's KimBoo's bio.
Those. Yeah.
Those things. KimBoo York is a Gen X elder goth whose main life purpose is to provide a good life for her rescue mutt, Keelyboo, who is perfect and beyond reproach in every way. She is also a librarian, a former project manager, and a professional author who wears too many hats across too many genres, including romance, fantasy, and nonfiction. She is a bit grumpy, especially in the morning. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Well, I have had my coffee already, so the grumpiness has dissipated a little
Good.
bit.
Good. It's
So we're
been
good to go.
diluted by caffeine. That's awesome.
Right.
Well, give us a quick update on what's happened since you were last on the podcast.
So I've been busy getting out the next book, which has been published, which we're going to be talking about today, about
Mhm.
discovery writing, which is By the Seat of Your Pants. Been getting really great responses to that, so I'm really happy about it. The big thing on the fiction front is I've really leaned into my two ongoing serials, Dragon's Grail and Transmigrated Terry. I think we talked a little bit about them in the last
Mhm.
episode,
Mhm.
but I hadn't really gotten around to starting to push them out there. And at this point, they're being published on Ream. It's exclusive early access there, but eventually I will be posting chapters for free on other platforms. We're just not there yet. And my long-running novel, which I've been serializing, The Queen's Diary, is almost done. Y'all, that has
Whoa.
been publishing every week for almost a year now because it's got
Oh,
57
wow.
episodes, right? And I remember when I first published it, I was like, man, that's going to take so long. It's just going to
Yeah.
drag out. And then suddenly we're going on May again. And I'm like,
Oh,
what?
gosh.
Wow. So
That's
Yeah.
lots been
amazing.
going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been
Yeah.
busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Very
I
much
remember
so.
when we talked about serials, Jamie and I we were floored at the length of the content that's available. And so
Yeah.
it's just totally different type of writing. So it's very
Mhm.
exciting.
Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing so much more discussion about it these days, which I think is great because I love it as a format, like reading long running stories. So it's like people are giving me food, so I'm happy, right? It's like it's great. It's good to see authors exploring so many different formats, not just novels, not just novel series, serials. I mean, there's novellas. There's just so many ways to go about it these days, and that's part of the excitement for me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the market is really opening up and changing. Things are very different than they were even last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So tell us, what's the most important lesson you've learned recently?
Oh, so the most important lesson I've learned recently is kind of business oriented. I think I was leaning this way over the last couple of years as things have been changing, but since we last talked and we talked about serials and things have been happening and the industry has been changing so hard, is I've really taken up the motto of meet the readers where they are. And that means there's going to be some people who want to read an ongoing serial, and there's going to be people who don't. They're going to want a book. And there's people who are going to want a print book, and there's people who are going to want human narrated audio books. And there's people who are just going to be fine with digitally narration as long as they can get something cheap they can listen to. There's going to be people who want special edition printed things with all the gold foil and ribbons and all that sort of stuff. So for me, it's been more a matter of saying, oh, I have all these formats available, and more about looking at trying to use these formats as a marketing tool themselves. I'm trying to expand the circle of my readership by using these formats to reach people that I would not, other readers, possible fans, that I otherwise would not have reached. So that's kind of the mindset shift a little bit in the business end of it, is not just, oh, I can have different formats, but oh, these different formats mean I can have access to readers that I might not have had previously. And you see some authors doing that with like large print editions, as well as multiple types of audio formats like human narration, digital audio narration, audio plays, like audio productions where you have multiple voice actors narrating different characters.
Right.
And they're all of the same book. Like that you can have 5 different versions of audio depending on your price point and how invested you are in the story. And that's the kind of thing I'm looking at now, is I want to meet the readers where they are. I don't want to try to force them to come to me.
Right.
Yeah. So that's fantastic. And it's a way to diversify without like you're taking the content you already have and offering it in all these different formats.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you say that's the biggest change you've had to make in your thinking and mindset, or is there something else you've
so that's the biggest change. That's the biggest mindset change I made in relation to my business. The biggest mindset change that I've had to make personally in my thinking and my approach is leaning more into my fiction. And this is kind of an ongoing personal saga. I was employed for a long time at a university, at an institution of higher education here in Tallahassee. It was a decent job. I was miserable.
As one often is in decent jobs.
I mean, I've had some truly terrible jobs in my life, but this was not one of them. I enjoyed the people I work with, and I enjoyed the work that I did, but it just was not fulfilling, and there was a lot of changes happening in higher education that made me very unhappy. So when I left, I was like, how to put this? There was a certain level of insecurity and imposter syndrome for me in my fiction writing, even though I was coming into it having already had books published, already had some of those books hit, the bestseller list of the time, like, the Amazon 100 seller list, and making money off of those books. I was still like, oh, I'm not sure I can make money doing this. I should have a different business on the side and try to do that. So I was trying to do online courses and in a way that wasn't really organic for me. That was just like, oh, I should do this so I can make money, so I can write. And the mind shift over the last 6 months to a year, even as I go into subscription models and stuff, is really No, it's the fiction. It's the fiction,
Mhm.
KimBoo. That's what I need to be doing. I need to be writing the fiction. So
Mhm.
that's why I ended up launching, just going ahead and launching both Dragon's Grail and Transmigrated Terry, because I was like, I need to force myself to
Mhm.
invest more time and energy into my fiction writing, which is what I love. Like the whole point of this has been so that I can write the stories I want to write. So I
Correct.
myself back.
Why are you
So,
going off down this side trail of,
yeah. I mean, I'm a freelancer. I'm still going to be doing some coaching. I'm still going to be writing nonfiction books. Like I just had By the Seat of Your Pants come out. I'm already working on the next book, nonfiction craft book for writers, but fiction writing needs to be the priority for me. And so
Mhm.
that's been a major long overdue shift
Mm.
in mindset for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Mm-mm.
yeah. I feel like there's a, general knowledge, or like one of the things that people always say is like, oh, nonfiction is easier to sell and
Right.
it's easy to make money with nonfiction. But there is a lot of time involved in it and getting set up and doing the course. Like if you're going to go down that path and do courses and stuff, there is a lot of work to do
Mhm.
it. So I can
Mhm.
see
And
why fiction, it can be a slower build, but if
Mhm.
it's what you love, then that's probably the better choice. Right.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think it was as I was, trying to do courses and do all this other type of marketing that I kind of realized, well, I just replaced one job I didn't like with another job I didn't like.
Mm.
And I'm still not getting all the fiction writing done. That was the whole point of this. So, hey, KimBoo, maybe step back and
Yeah.
reassess. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe you've answered our next question, which was, has
Mhm.
your business model changed
Yeah.
recently? So it
Yeah.
sounds like that's kind of
A
merged
little
in.
bit. I think
Yeah.
from the outside, you probably can't tell. I
Right.
think because I've always, even when I shifted to doing like leaning into subscription model and coming back around to my fiction writing in early of last year, 2023, and
Mhm.
kind of left the other businesses not high and dry, but just not putting as much energy and investment to them. But my mentality hadn't changed. Like I was still trying to hustle on the side to make money so I could write instead of leaning into my writing as my fiction writing as the priority. So yeah, so
Mm.
I think from the outside it probably doesn't look any different, but for me internally as I approach my own business and make my own priorities every day,
Yeah.
the shift is real. It's really happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I love that whole, I left one job to do another, the one job I didn't like to do another job. That just,
Didn't really help
it's,
me much. I go
it's
figure.
such a light bulb moment, but it takes us a while sometimes to get to that.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, yeah.
Well, how do you view mistakes and how do you recover when things go wrong?
Well, aside from a lot of crying, usually,
Wailing and gnashing of teeth.
wailing
Yes,
of
I know.
gnashing of teeth and living under the covers of the bed with my head,
Yes.
So I think one of the biggest lessons I've had to learn, because y'all, I have made so many major mistakes in my life. Yeah, that it's this is going to sound somewhat silly, but to me, it's always been true is that, tomorrow is another day.
Mhm.
And I, I have to believe that it's not that I have to believe, but I think I'm very invested in believing that however bad it is right now, I
Mhm.
still have the opportunity to turn things around. I may have to
Mhm.
shift gears. I
Mhm.
may have to change focus. I may have to get divorced. Like,
Mhm.
these things
Mhm.
happen to people over
Mhm.
time. Which my ex-husband's probably even listening to this. We're still good
Mhm.
friends. But it was just one of those things where putting one foot in front of the other has
Mhm.
always worked for me. And
Mhm.
so it's just, so when I look at mistakes and I look at wrong decisions, and we're just talking about that with the business model that I went into when I left the higher education,
Mhm.
that was a mistake. That was a year spent doing the wrong thing. However, I learned a lot. I learned about video editing. I learned
Mhm.
about, nonfiction. I learned a lot about marketing. I did a lot of studying. I can take those lessons and go forward in a different direction with them. But
Yeah.
I can only do that if I keep going forward. And so
Right.
that's really the mindset that I have. It's just what is it, the old Churchill quote, when you're going through hell, keep going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that has been a guiding light for me. I know that's not like the super positive, uplifting one, but sometimes some days are hell, y'all. So just
Yeah.
keep going. And
Yeah.
that's how I don't sugarcoat mistakes. It's like, oh, it's an opportunity to learn something. It is, but it still can be a mistake, but
Yeah.
you still have an opportunity to turn it around.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
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 And when you're
Very,
in
very few things that aren't fixable. I
Yeah.
mean,
Very few.
some
Very
take
few.
some take a lot more effort than others, but there are very few things that aren't fixable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as indies, we have so much more control and ability to pivot and do things differently and learn and go, okay, that didn't work here. And the things that like your side hustle that you wish you hadn't done, like you're saying, you'll take those things and you'll probably apply them down the road
Other
to your
places,
fiction
yeah.
writing. And
Yeah.
so it's not a loss. It's just we have to think of it differently than we
Yes,
often do.
exactly. Exactly. Instead of just like, gnashing and wailing of teeth, there's a time to grieve, a time to cry. It's a time to be upset with yourself and kick things around. But then there's a time to put it down and go, okay, now we're moving forward. And that's really what I try to remember when I'm in the middle of gnashing and wailing.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your new book a little bit. It's called By the Seat of Your Pants, Secrets of Discovery Writing. So why don't we start? Just tell us about discovery writing and what it is.
So discovery writing has often been called pantsing, writing by that's why I titled the book by Writing by the Seat of Your Pants. A lot of people these days are familiar with the term pantser versus plotter and that ongoing dialogue. It wasn't quite as well known like 10 years ago, and much less before then. And even at that point, pantsing was like sneered at and dismissed. Recently, I did not come up with the term discovery writing. That's a term that's been floating around for a few years now. I just embraced it when I was working on the book. And what it means for discovery writing is that you're coming to your story from a place of curiosity, of not knowing exactly what's going to happen. So you're not pre-outlining, you're not pre-summarizing. You might sketch out character ideas, but you're not doing that full character sheet. I say that though with a caveat, which is that discovery writing is a technique. This is one thing I really stress in the book. Discovery writing is a technique. Pantser is an identity. I call myself a pantser. There are a lot of people who use discovery writing techniques who don't, and that's fair because there's a lot of different ways to approach discovery writing. And I go into that in the book and all that sort of stuff. But when you talk about discovery writing, it is basically writing into the curiosity and figuring out where the story is going to go without too many guardrails.
Okay.
So it sounds kind of fun, but kind of scary to me.
Yeah, there's
and I'm like, jump in, let's go.
Right? The pool feels like, oh, it's fun, it's wonderful in here. Yeah, you'll get over the cold shock in just a few seconds.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, what are some common misconceptions about discovery writing?
The biggest common misconception about discovery writing is it is the same as free association writing, and they are not the same.
Right.
Free association writing is a wonderful tool. It's a great exercise. It's good for tapping into the subconscious creativity. It's great for therapeutic purposes. It's great for journaling, but it's not the same as discovery writing. Discovery writing has a goal, has a purpose. Discovery writing the point is to tell a story.
Right.
And it can be a short story, it can be a long story, whatever you're trying to do. It can be a scene, but it is pointedly for a purpose, which is writing a story. Whereas a free association writing is the purpose of free association writing is the experience. It's doing the thing and reaching into those elements of creativity that might be a little bit layered down under a few self-awareness notches there. So like Morning Pages, Julia Cameron's famous exercise where you get up first thing in the morning and you write 3 pages by hand. That's free association writing. There's an element of discovery to it, but discovery writing, as I define it, is functionally about writing a story of some kind. So I think that's the biggest misconception, and why it gets so much hate or disdain a lot of time is that people confuse the two and think that, oh, you're just free association writing a story. It's like, no, that's not what's happening.
That's not the same thing. Mm-mm.
No.
Yeah, I think people may be afraid to try it because they feel like I'm going to spend all this time writing all these words and I don't know if I'll have a book at the end. Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
what would you say to somebody that's their fear or their worry?
I would say, first off, that is a valid fear. I think one of the things that's a problem that I address in the book that I wanted to address was that people talk about how that's a problem in discovery writing, but then don't give anybody tools on how to fix it. Right. So we've had a lot of teaching over years, decades, centuries at this point on how to fix an outline, how to fix a character arc, how to fix how to fix the denouement in a 3-act structure story. We have not had anywhere near as much attention paid to, well, if you're discovery writing and you hit a wall or your plot falls apart, how do you fix it? And that has been a major oversight, in my opinion. So, yes, it's a real fear. There are solutions, though. There are ways to fix that. If you end up halfway through, if you have been discovery writing and getting into the story, and suddenly you find yourself in a corner, your characters are stuck on a bridge. One of your characters died, and you're just like, "What? How? What? You weren't supposed to die yet. What happened?" There are ways to fix that. There are ways to go back and figure out what went wrong. You might have to do reverse outlining. You might have to do a reader read through. You may have to put it aside for a little while and then come back to it. But there are ways to fix it. Like, it's not just, oh, you have to discover, right? Like, a lot of people think discovery writing is sitting down, starting at the beginning and writing to the end. That's a version of discovery writing. That is one form of discovery writing. It's the form that Dean Wesley Smith really loves, called writing into the dark. But that's not the only way to do discovery writing. So I get the fear. It's a real fear. There are solutions to getting around the problems that you're going to run into as a discovery writer.
Right. It's really good news.
Yeah. And I think
People
it's
everywhere
important.
letting out. Whoo.
Yeah. I think it's important to point out, like, you're not suggesting everyone become a discovery writer,
no.
because there are people that just they cannot function like that. Like, they need that roadmap. They need that written outline. And if that's you, then that's great. But if you're the person that likes to discover, I'm using air quotes, as you write, then the tips in the book, I think, are really interesting and helpful.
I think that's one of the things that I wanted to stress as well, that the people aren't most of the time people aren't just using discovery writing techniques because they just are rebels at heart. It's because of how your brain works. So I worked in disability services and higher education, and that was the demographic of students I worked with. And one of the things that they taught me was that everybody's brains works differently. And some people are just hardwired. When you do an outline, I call it writing from an outline up. They need that structure. They need to know those details, and then they will fill in the cracks and crevices of the story, building it up from that outline. People like me, and I identify as a pantser who uses discovery writing techniques extensively in my creative process, I can't do that. Like, once I know what the story is, once I've written the outline, my brain's just like, you're done. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. That was a great story. I'm sure someone else can write it, but not you. And so I have to write into the creativity in order to maintain my brain's attention, because that's just how my brain is wired. So absolutely, Jamie, like, there's some people who I suggest trying discovery writing. That's why I included a few exercises in the book for people who might just be curious about it, but don't want to commit like a whole novel's worth of energy.
Yeah.
But I suggest you try it. You don't know what you are until you try it. But if you're not, that's fine. Like
Yeah.
there's plenty of books out there to help you figure out how to write a perfect and great outline.
Mhm.
No worries. It's not any skin off my back. Do what works for you. That's my biggest message.
Right. Right. And okay, let me just say it. Let's assume I did a very detailed outline because I've never done one, but let's assume I did. I can tell you what would happen. What you said, you get to the end, you go, well, that was fun. Like my brain would have gotten the dopamine hit of finishing that and I would be done. Like I have to be careful. I've learned this recently. I have to be careful how much I tell of what I'm actually writing or thinking about writing because my brain interprets it as I've done that thing and now I can move on and I lose motivation. And so, if because of that, discovery writing helps me. I mean, I do have road marks along the way, but discovery writing helps me stay motivated, I guess. Yeah.
No, you are definitely not the first pantser discovery writer I've talked to who has the same problem that we do. Like that is a very common thing where people are like, I wrote an outline, it was great, but then I just couldn't, my brain just was done. It just, I just couldn't do it at all. So that's very, very common.
Yeah.
And for me, actually, people are surprised a lot of times that I do use story beats. Like if we go back to when we were talking about serials, I do use beats as a structure, but it's not the outline. It's not telling me, Fred goes around the corner and buys milk. It's telling me, oh, there's a character, his name might be Fred, and he's going out of the house this morning. And, he has to have a meet cute with the female lead or whatever. It's very different, but I can't do the outline. It just won't happen.
Right.
And I've learned it the hard way too, Jamie. I'm like, oh, this is going to be such a great story. And then it's not.
Yeah.
Because it's not a story. It's just an outline. That's all it ever is.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, how can authors incorporate spontaneity and intuition into their writing life?
Oh, good question. Because there is a certain level of jumping into the unknown, right? So if you're
whether
not
you're an outliner or a pantser, right?
Exactly. So if you're not used to that, I do. And here I kind of backtrack on myself. I do recommend writing without any, spontaneous writing, just free association writing is what I'm trying to say. Blah. Do a few free association writing exercises just to get in the habit of trying to reach down to that thing. At the point where you want to sit down and actually try to use discovery writing to write a story, I think what you need to do is usually work off a prompt. If you're not very familiar with discovery writing and you're a little scared of it, find a prompt, a really short prompt, a medium-sized prompt. I don't suggest really complicated long prompts. There's a princess in the tower and the dragon is circling or something like that. Just something very simple, and just either imagine the scene if you have that kind of imagination, or just start describing the scene and writing out the description of the scene as you think it may take place, and just trying to build on those elements of filling in things. Because as I said before, a discovery writer writes from a place of curiosity, of wanting to know what happens next, of constantly asking themselves, well, what next? What next? Well, then what happens? What next? What next? So focus on those types of questions as you're writing, rather than trying to fall back on a structure that's already been done for you. If it's, again, as I say, if it's not for you, feel free to abandon it. Nobody's keeping time here, but it's worth trying, I think. I think it's if you haven't before.
Yeah, I think so too, because you may surprise yourself and think you're not, but maybe it's more, it works better with the way your brain is wired, and maybe if you've never tried it, you'd never know.
I think too, a key for that, and this is speaking from experience, having worked with multiple authors in that situation, is that if you're the kind of author who is writing something and you write something And then you have to go back and change your original outline because you've changed the story, and you keep doing that over and over and over. Chances are you're probably more of a discovery writer than you think you are, because what you're doing is you're taking a launching point and starting to write the story as a discovery writer, but it's not adhering to the outline that you wrote. So I particularly think if you're one of those people who's constantly redefining and restructuring and remaking your outlines over and over and over again, try discovery writing, because that may be the missing piece for you.
That's good to know. Yeah. Well, so since we're talking about people learning that they're discovery writers and, discovering this process, basically, are there any common mistakes you see when it comes to discovery writing that people make, like other than like misconceptions about what it is?
I think they get tied to the idea that they can only use discovery writing. One of the tools that surprises a lot of people is reverse outlining. And I don't do this with every book I've written, but a couple of them I've had to. When you get to a point where the story is falling apart or you reach some real difficult moments, Dean Wesley Smith says just power through. And maybe that's what you need to do. Like, just stop thinking, just start typing. For me, there's been occasions where I really had to go back and do a reverse outline. So, which, if people aren't familiar with that, basically means doing a summary of every scene that you've written in the book so far and trying to construct it into an outline so you can actually see what the story beats are and what the arc is for the characters that you're putting them through. You may realize, and I wrote about this in the book, one of my romantic thrillers, I killed off the antagonist, the bad guy, the villain, 2/3 of the way through the love story arc. And so I had the dead villain. I lost all the tension in the thriller while the romance was still going on. I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I had to go back. I had to reverse outline. And that's when I realized my mistake was not matching up the two arcs, the thriller arc with the romance arc. And so I think a lot of times you don't lock yourself into one way of doing things. Certainly, I think that's definitely a character trait of successful discovery writers, pantsers, is that they're willing to change up midstream. They're like, oh no, I really need to use story beats because I'm just going off the rails. And this story's like, I'm talking about this one scene for 4 chapters. That's not going to work. Be willing to be flexible on how you're approaching discovery writing in the same way that you're flexible about what kind of outline you're going to use, because there's so many different versions of outlines out there. You can pick and choose. And the same is true for discovery writing techniques. There's a lot of ways to do it. You just got to pick the one that works for you.
Right. And I think that, like, discovery writing happens for all of us. Some of us, it just happens during the outlining process.
Yep.
And some of us, it's while we're writing the book. I mean, it's just it's just a different thing.
I think you probably read that in the book, Jamie, but I did mention that, like, I personally think we all spend as much time as we're going to spend on a book, whether we do, because, like, a lot of people say, well, you just don't want to spend the time on doing a outline, and other people say outlining is cheating because then you just have to fill in the blanks, and it's just like, well, I think, like you said, like, you're going to spend as much time as you want to on the book either way. Like, you're going to spend it on the outline and then writing, or you're going to spend it on writing and then fixing it all up and making it into a story as you go along. So either way, it's an even balance, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I would say I'm definitely not a discovery writer, but then I don't do a full outline, but I do have to know where the story's going. But I can only do a little bit of it at a time. So, like, I'll know the first act, and then the second act is really foggy. But I know when I get there, I'll figure it out. So I think that it's kind of like a stage thing for me. And so,
interesting.
I could never do a full outline because I can't picture it. I can't see it, but I have to get there. And then once I'm there, then I'm going, oh, okay. So I think we all have, whether it's like full on discovery writer or just maybe seeing discovery writers or something like that.
You're kind of like a hybrid. Like, you're using an outline. You have to have the outline for that act, but then you're discovering where that's going for the next act so that you can do the next part of the outline. That's interesting. Yeah, no, everybody's.
So you ride into the fog, not the dark.
That's right. I can't stand the dark. I'm scared of the dark.
Riding into the fog.
Well,
The name of my
what are
next
a
book.
few,
No.
right? What are a few of the techniques you recommend in the book? You know,
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. Now I have to I didn't so one of the ones again was the prompt relay, which I think is a lot of fun. Which is that you have a list of very short prompts and you write for about 5 to 10 minutes based on the first prompt. And then you go to the next prompt and it could be completely different, but you have to find a way to incorporate it into what you've already written.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of forcing you to be super creative on the fly without knowing where it's going. Like, you're just not going to know. And a lot of times I suggest trying to mix them up, make them random if you can, if a random prompt generator, or put them in a hat and pick one out of a hat as you go along. So you're not mentally prepared. That one I think is really, really helpful. Another one is kind of more along the lines of the and then type of scenario where it's called the 5 whys. And what you do is you write a scene. You can take it from a prompt, or you can just create, if you have a scene in your head, the princess is stuck in the tower. Well, then you ask, why is the princess stuck in the tower? And then instead of writing it as an outline, well, she's stuck because this, you have to say, you have to write it in the scene. You have to write it as one of the characters explaining that. And then you're like, well, okay, she's stuck in the tower because her evil stepmother put her there. Why did her evil stepmother put her? And you just reiterate this process of why, but you're not doing it to create an outline. You're doing it to actually write short scenes. And then by the time you get through with that, you might even have a short story built, but you'll certainly have an interesting challenge in answering the why while, lack of a better term, remaining in character. Like, you're not just explaining it, you're actually writing the story, answering the why. That's a pretty challenging one. People think it looks really simple, but when you start getting down like the 4th or 5th why, like you're into the 3rd cousin doing the assassination plot on the emperor, who is, paying off the evil stepmother. Like, it just gets wild at that point. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot more challenging than it sounds. And I've got a couple of other exercises in the book as well, but those are the two I think that are both easy, but also not as simple as they appear on first brush.
Right. Like in the book I'm writing now, because I had to kind of leave them to go do something else, and now I'm going back. But they're hiding behind a tombstone, the hero and heroine, because women are chasing the heroine. And I'm like, why are they there? What
was I thinking?
What was I thinking? And how can I get them out of there and still save face? So without having to go back and rewrite. So, but I think those are good questions. Those are good questions.
Yeah. Why? It's super simple. And the thing I love about discovery writing is that if I were in that situation, I'm going to come up with a much more interesting and wild solution to that problem than if I tried to sit ahead of time and map it all out. That's just not how my brain works. And so for me, that would be great. I have a book, an arc in Dragon's Grail called The Pirate's Witch. And I often talk about the fact that I don't know who the pirates are or who the witch is or how my heroine and the other leads get on the boat with I don't know any of that, but I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out eventually. It's going to be something great.
Yeah. So the description, especially of the first technique you gave, makes me think of improv.
And yes, I know. I was just thinking that because I've
done improv, but you have, Jamie, right?
Yeah. And it's like that
based on improv.
Yeah, because you have to, someone's doing a scene, and then if you have to come in with your idea, but you have to join it to the scene they're doing. Yeah. And then the person has to react
and
from their scene into your scene, kind of thing.
That's not a coincidence. My best friend, Kim McShane, shout out. Hey, Kim. She's also a Kim. There's a lot of Kims in my generation. She actually studied at Second City, and she's always talking about improv. And when I was writing the book, I was like, how can we do this? She's like, oh, it's just improv. And I was like, oh, you're right. And so that's how I come up with some of those. Yeah, because that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing, Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah. And isn't one of the principles of improv that it's always yes. Whatever your partner goes with, you go with it. You can't say, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. No,
Yes,
you
So
always
you have to keep it going, right?
Right. Exactly. It's the yes and versus the no but. Like the
Yes.
no but, like no, but they can't really be stuck behind a tombstone. No, but they need to be somewhere else. Like yes and is saying, okay, yes, they are stuck behind a tombstone, and what happens next? And that's very much the difference between them.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that. Well, if you had to start over today, what would you do differently?
I would absolutely, as we were talking about earlier, I would absolutely focus on my fiction writing, because I think these days, particularly as as the market has been changing, there's all people are talking about saturated and all this sort of stuff. I think the key is to be your unique self. And
Yes.
I would definitely lean far more heavily into that for me personally than trying to write to market or niche down or anything like that. I would write the stories that are in my heart and that I want to read, that I'd want to see in the world, because those are the ones I have passion about. And some of the most successful authors that I see coming up now are doing that as well. They're just writing, they're being aware what the market is and what it will bear, but they're writing what's in their heart and what they find fun. And if I had to do it all over again, that would absolutely be my whole focus.
Right.
100%. Like as you were saying earlier, Sarah, a little bit slower growth, but I think a firmer, stronger foundation for that growth.
Right.
Yes, very true. Yeah. Well, I think that is great. Great note to end on. So tell everybody where they can find your book, By the Seat of Your Pants, Secrets of Discovery Writing, and all of the other stuff you do.
Sure. It is available on all major distributors, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo. You can read it through Everend, and it should be available through like Overdrive and some libraries. You might have to request it. My website is houseofyork.info, houseofyork.info. And I have a direct sales site there. So if you go and find the books, you can link and buy directly from me, which helps me a little bit more if that's what you care about. So they can find me there, and they'll find all my other books and all my other services and my blogs and my podcasts. Y'all, I'm so busy. I'm just like, honestly, I love everything I'm doing, but it is a lot. So yes, find me at houseofyork.info or on any of the major platforms.
Very good. Very good. Well, thanks for listening today, y'all. And you can support the podcast at wishidknownthemforwriters.com/support. And thanks to all our supporters. And you can find the show notes at wishidknownthemforwriters.com. Thanks to Alexa Larberg for editing and producing the podcast, and to Adriel Wiggins for doing the admin. See y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. We hope this episode inspired you, empowered you, and made you laugh a little bit too. If you loved it, tell your friends about it. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. We look forward to being with you again next week.